Welcome to ROAVR, where today we're going to be talking about UK drone laws. Cue the music. So, UK drone laws, what are they? Who looks after them? How does that affect you and your production? It's actually a lot simpler than people think, to be honest. The rules for drones have been around for quite some time now, and they're essentially very similar to the rules that govern model aircraft flying. So the overarching piece of legislation that everybody has to comply with is something called the Air Navigation Order, and that's updated every few years. Not all of it is relevant to drones, but that's the overarching piece of legislation that everybody has to comply with. And essentially what that says is that anybody operating a drone, whether they're hobbyist or commercial, so let's just deal with drones in general, they have to operate within visual line of sight. A visual line of sight is essentially as far as you can safely see that aircraft, sufficient to monitor its progress in relation to other aircraft and for the purposes of avoiding obstacles, etc, etc. Now obviously if you've got a tiny little toy drone for Christmas, visual line of sight on that's probably only going to be 50 meters, but if you've got a whopping great big fixed wing model aircraft, that could be 500 meters away. The distance is capped at 500 meters visual line of sight in the UK, and the altitude is capped at 400 feet above ground level. So they're the two figures really you need to think about: 500 meters visual line of sight and 400 foot above ground level, and that's where the drone is. So there's some numbers and some distances there for you. The drone rules are then broken down into weight categories. I'm not going to go into that too much because you don't need to know about that. But essentially, unless you've got unless you're a commercial operator with a permission for commercial operation, you have to keep 150 meters away from a congested area, and a congested area is anywhere that's substantially used for business, recreation, leisure, etc. So that could be a collection of farm buildings in the middle of nowhere, or it could be a hamlet, a town, or a village. So you have to keep 150 meters away from that. Then you have to make sure you keep 50 meters away from people, vessels, vehicles, structures that the pilot in command cannot control. So that's a general overview. Commercial operators, the sorts of people that you're going to be employing, a good drone crew will generally have what's known as they have to have a permission for commercial operation, and that gives them certain exemptions from the Air Navigation Order. So what that means is that if your drone weighs less than 7 kilograms, which most of them do now, you get an exemption which allows you to operate within a congested area. So all of a sudden those jobs in towns, cities, the local park are achievable, but the drone crew has to maintain that 50 meters away from persons, vehicles, vessels, structures they can't control. So that's the basic rules, the basic numbers and figures. So if it's a hobbyist, they can't operate within a congested area. They've got to keep the drone within visual line of sight, and they're not allowed any higher than 400 feet or 500 meters away. Commercial operators have this important exemption which allows them to operate within a congested area. So that is key. Generally speaking, overflight of people, property, vessels, vehicles, structures you can't control is not allowed, because if something goes wrong with the drone, it's going to fall out of the sky and potentially cause some damage. Now, I'll caveat all of this by saying that some operators, like ROAVR, have what's known as a operational safety case, and that allows them to do special things that they've written into that safety case. So you'll have to liaise with that specific drone crew to see if they can or can't do what you want them to do. But hopefully that's given you a little bit of an overview of the rules and regulations, and we'll be back soon. Cue the music.